Hey, this is Eric with CAD Avenue. We're taking you through a three-part video. The first part, we're just going to really focus on the piping input. The second part will be adding various elements outside of NetQ. So it's going to be more of a CAD walkthrough using a series of shortcuts. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about line weights, how to annotate your drawing, and then dimension. And finally, we'll do a plot preview of the drawing to see the result. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new drawing here. So first thing, I'm going to set up my layers. So LA for layers. And I'm going to add 4 layers in here. And each of these is going to have its own name. This is going to be the concrete layer. This is going to be the earth layer, we'll call it. This will be the text layer. Let's create a layer for the well. On the top side of our drawing window, you'll see that I have a pull down up here. If you don't have that pull down, I recommend turning it on. It's pretty handy. It's called Layer Manager. Just find the little arrow, click on it, and turn this on. You may also find it if you right click on this area here, depending on your CAD version. Let's add one more layer. We'll call this the Center L layer for center line. Go ahead and double click on this to activate it. Now let's draw that center line in here for the pump. I'm just going to draw it in. If you've got this kind of movement on your cursor, you need to lock it using the F8 key, and that will make it straight. So we'll type 16 feet here for this. Probably be checking our snap settings. So it's OS for object snap. And you'll want the endpoint, midpoint, intersection, perpendicular turned on. Next, let's just draw a line about 1/4 of the way down here. So in order to do that, I'm going to force snap using the NEA transparent command. And I'm just going to snap here anywhere on this line. And I'm going to draw my first construction line over at 7 feet 6. Come down into my status bar. You'll notice down here we have polar tracking. I want to right click on this, make sure that I have 45 selected here, and then I want to activate this. So we want to just turn this on just by clicking on it here. And once we do that, we can snap to that 45-degree angle. You'll see it here at my cursor stating it's at 315 degrees, which is correct. So once we're on this line, we want to type in the distance. We're going to type in 9'6", and then we're going to come over straight this way, 15 feet. So this is going to give us the construction line for our piping route. So let's go ahead and draw in our pump. We'll go ahead and change the layer for this. I'm going to put this on the well layer here, and we'll type in the rectangle command. You're going to see me using the rectangle command quite a bit in this video. So we're going to go over 10 and then tab and then type in 4 feet. And then we're going to move this to the intersection here. So we're going to click it, and then we're going to click on the grip here, press our space bar, and then move it in to the endpoint here. Next, we can go ahead and move this down the same way. We'll move it down 16 inches. We'll also copy this line here with the CO command. We'll copy this down 2'4" And this is going to be our grade line where our earth is. We'll just stretch it like that. One more thing to sketch in here is a concrete box that's going to be over here. So let's go into our concrete layer and draw a box in with the rectangle command. And we're going to go over 4 feet and 5 feet 6 in the Y direction. And select this with the grip and move it here. And then select it by the grip. And then we're going to move this again up another 1.5 inches. And then we're going to move this over 5'6". So each time that I moved that, I was selecting it and then selecting the grip and then pressing the space bar. If you get used to that sort of input, it will make things a lot faster. Let's input the pipe. We won't need to worry too much about the layers. NetQ is going to take care of all that. Now up in the ribbon, we have a pipe and fitting icon. We can load MetQ this way. We want to go into our main dialog here, if you don't have that active, and just make sure that you have ductile iron selected and you're using a 10-inch pipe. And then over here, we're using our double line mode and we're drawing this in 2D. So select the straight piece of pipe here, then select View Draw. And from here, you can choose this one on the far left, pick the first point, then the second point, making sure that you're snapped correctly here. So we'll just type in 12 inches for this one and then enter. Make sure that you press enter at the end, otherwise you're not going to see anything. So what MetQ is wanting to do is it's wanting to put an elbow in after the third point. So let's put in a couple of 45-degree elbows. We'll click on this one and then we'll choose draw. And we're going to select this one at the top and we're going to choose it from the center mark here. We don't want to choose it from the end, but the center. So those are click sensitive. We will snap to the end point there, left click, and then we'll rotate it in this way. Let's draw another one. We'll click on the 45 again, choose draw. This time we're going to choose this one here from the center point, and we'll click here, and we will rotate it out this way, pointing to the left. Make sure that you're straight on the line and that you're snapped. We still have the polar snapping turned on, so just be aware of that. So next I'm going to draw a T. I'm going to select this one, choose draw, and I want to choose this one from the end. So we'll click on the second one over. We will left click here and pay attention to the prompts. It says show branch going in hidden. We're going to say no on that one. And then we're going to rotate it this way. Let's draw a valve next. So we'll choose this one. We'll choose draw. And we do have a gate valve selected here, but we want a check valve. We want this one called check valve 2. And we want to check this length here. So let's make this 13. This is really just a representation of the valve. This drawing, it's really not to scale. I'm just inputting pieces. It's just showing the layout. So heads up on that one. So I'm going to left click on the intersection. The point direction is this way, and then that puts in that valve. I think what I want to do is move this over and then put in a short straight piece of pipe. So let me just move this over 1'6", and let me draw in a couple more straight pieces of pipe in here. So we'll come up to the menu, we'll choose a straight piece here, and we'll choose draw. And then we'll do this 2 times for each side, enter, and we'll do it one more time. Left click, and enter. Again, let's do the straight piece here between the two 45s. We'll come up here this way, left click, and enter. Just do a couple more. Choose left click and draw, and we'll put one at the end here. We'll come out 8 inches and we'll choose enter. Next, move this short piece in between these 2 points. And let me show you how to do that. So we'll select the fitting and we'll press M for move, and we'll snap to the midpoint here. And then as we're dragging it, we'll type in M2P and we'll snap perpendicular here and to the intersection here. And that's going to position it right there in the middle. This is going to be where our flow meter is. Let's draw a couple more straight pieces. We'll come up to the menu here and choose these pieces here. We'll left click here, the side of that fitting, and make sure your cursor is straight at 0 degrees. And then let's type in 2 feet, enter. We'll do another one on the opposite side. We'll left click here and draw, left click and type in 2 feet, enter, and enter. One more straight piece in here and left click, enter. Now let's draw in another straight piece, but this time we're going to use this option here, the third one over. We don't want to terminate it. We want it to be open. So let's left click and we'll just snap here and then enter. And then we can exit. So that really completes the piping input part of this. Now what I wanted to show you was how you can come back and use CAD to draw in the additional elements that we need. And we will do that in the next video in part 2. So stay with me if you can, or a bookmark and come back to complete that. Okay, welcome to part 2. We have a little bit to do, so let's get started. So here's our line of grade. So I want to copy this down with the CO command and just copy it down 3 inches. While I'm doing that, I'm just going to close it up and draw a couple of lines here at the end with the L command. And the reason why I'm doing that is so I can hatch this later. And when you're using hatching, everything has to be closed up. Let's also offset this 2 inches. So we'll select the box here. We'll type in the O command and we'll type in 2 for our offset and offset to this side. While we're at it, we can put a lid on this box here, typing in the REC command and snapping to the middle. And here we can just put in a 2'6" and then tab and then 1.5 for the thickness. And again, we can just select it, pick the grip, and then snap it to the midpoint here. I'm also using a AutoCAD alternative called AutoCAD, and we're in our 2025 release now. If you have AutoCAD, maybe you'd like to have a look at that. If you're interested in a alternative, AutoCAD's native file type is also DWG, and the 2 programs can work side by side. So we're still on the concrete layer. Let's pan over this way. I'm using the middle button of my mouse. I'm just holding it down to pan. I want to put a footing with a pipe support here. So let's draw the footing first. REC and 1'6" and tab. Let's make it 2'6". For a pipe support, REC, we'll just snap it over here. Draw this at 6 inches and 1'6". Again, we'll just move this over, snapping it to the middle. And then we're just going to move this whole piece up. I selected it this way from the lower right to upper left, and that will pick up anything in the crossing. And I'll pick it again from the grip, and let's support it right here by clicking on the midpoint. Let's change layers, and we will go into our well layer here. Here, I'm just going to draw a rectangle again, and this time I'm going to select this left point here, and I'm going to come down. As you can see, the dynamic input there where it says 8'10". That's showing the distance, how far we're going down. So let's just put this rectangle in at 1 foot in the X direction and 10'4" in the Y direction. And now we can move this with the grip here and just move it over to the intersection here. Offset this by 3 inches, O command, and then 3, enter, and then pick this piece here and click to the outside. Now let's pick here and let's just move this down so that it stops here at the grade. We'll pick this rectangle here, again by its grip, and we'll stretch it down to the midpoint here. So we just need to clean up this intersection here. I'm going to zoom down on it. And the way we want to do that, we'll select it from the lower right to upper left, and we'll type in the trim command. That's TR, enter. And what we want to do is trim these lines out like this, and then take the rectangle here again and stretch it up to the top here. And we want to just get rid of this line with the erase command. So our well is completed. Take the center line and then move it down a ways. So next I wanted to just draw a couple of additional items. So let's go onto the pipe layer, and we're going to draw a air release valve here. So we'll do the rectangle command. We'll do a 4 by 6 rectangle. And then underneath it, I'm going to draw just a couple of triangles. To do that, I use the polyline command, that's POL, and the number of sides is going to be 3, and the center will be here for now. I'm going to just choose circumscribed about the circle, and then what I'll do is I'll draw this in at 0.7. I just want to make sure it's straight. And then what I'll do is I'll select it, type in MI for mirror, and then mirror another triangle on top of it, and then move this whole piece like this. Again, I'm selecting it from the grip, moving it down this way. If I wanted to scale this little piece here down, I would select it here from this grip here, press the space bar, press it 4 times. I can't remember if that's 4 or 3, but anyways, we'll type in the scale factor of 0.7, and that's going to scale that down a little bit. Finally, we'll just move this by selecting the grip and then moving it down to the midpoint here. Let's just select this and we'll right click and make this a group. And then what we'll do is we'll take this, copy it from the base point here, and we're going to copy it down here. And this way, select it, right click, separate the groups, and then just erase this little piece here. We'll create one additional rectangle. We'll snap to this left side here, and we'll snap to the midpoint here. And let's just stretch this back 0.5 inches. And then we can move this with the grip over to the middle. So now I've got my flow meter. So another thing I wanted to discuss is MetQ groups all these fittings together into various pieces. This keeps the bill of materials intact. And if you're not doing a bill of materials, you can ungroup them and stretch them and manipulate them. And if you are using the bill of materials and you want to edit them, just make sure to group them up again after you're done to keep the schedule accurate. So let me show you how to do that. There's a command called pick style. Press enter and then type 0 for the new value. And now what this does is it separates all the piping entities so that you can manipulate them. We'll clean the concrete up a little bit here. And the way we'll do that is just by typing in the TR command, selecting everything here in the box, pressing enter, and picking the areas that are penetrating that box. So here, here, and up here as well. We can even pick this line here. We'll do that same exercise over here with the footing. We'll just select it, type TR. And by the way, you can select it before you type the command, or you can type the command and select it. It really doesn't matter. Lastly, I just wanted to make a couple of additional changes to this drawing. By using the fillet command, I can round out some of these corners. So it's F for fillet, R for radius, and then the radius is going to be 2. And I can select this and this, enter to repeat this and this. We'll do it down here as well. Enter this, and the opposite side. Let's go back up to the pump and let's select the layer here. Type in rectangle and we'll put a rectangle in here. Put in a 10 by 10 rectangle, and then we'll select it and move it down 4 inches. Now I'm going to show you how to hatch. So the hatch command is H for hatch, and we're going to use this ANSI for now. The scale, let's set this to 10, and we'll select the add internal points option here, and then we'll just hatch this piece here, enter. Now I need to change the angle of that. So let's set the angle at 45, and then we'll start on the concrete. So we'll press enter to repeat the last command. We'll change the hatch here to an earth hatch. That's this one here. And we'll leave the scale at 10. We'll leave the angle at 45. Select the pick internal points here and we'll just go across and carefully select the areas that we want to hatch in this last piece here. Then we'll press enter and OK here. Now we'll hatch the concrete. So we'll type H, change it to concrete. And once we do that, we can select the add internal points, and we'll place a point here and here, and also here and here. And then we'll press enter and OK. One thing that I forgot to do is change my layers when I did that. The easiest way of doing that is typing select similar. That's SEL. And if we choose this and then choose the hatch and then enter, it's going to find everything similar to what we just did. In fact, you can see that it even selected the earth hatch here, which is fine. So let's go ahead and just change that selection to the earth layer. And now when we click on it, we can see that it's on the correct layer. There's just a little tip there for you. Q. Let's turn off the METQ center layer here, because I've made my own center line layer. So we're just going to turn this off, and then we're actually going to turn the print option off here as well. So now I need to change the line type of this layer here, my center line layer. I think I have an overlapping line here that I need to get rid of. So let's just do that first, and then bring this line down here past the bottom of the well. Lastly, I want to change my line type on my layer here for center layer. And I'm going to change this here underneath line type. I'm going to change it to center here and choose OK. Now you can see that the scale barely shows up. So I need to increase the scale of the line type. And the way you do that is just type in LT scale, LTS, and choose it here. And the new line type scale, this is a global setting, so it's going to change all the line types up. I'm also using a AutoCAD alternative called AutoCAD, and we're in our 2025 release now. If you have AutoCAD, maybe you'd like to have a look at that. If you're interested in a alternative, AutoCAD's native file type is also DWG, and the two programs can work side by side. So in part 3, I'm going to show you how to add annotations and dimensions. So either continue on to part 3 or bookmark this for later. Hi, welcome to part 3. In this part, I wanted to talk about line weights, annotative scaling, and dimensioning. You notice a column here called line weight. What we can do is increase the line weight for various layers. So in our layer manager, you'll notice a column here called line weight. So what you can do is increase the value how you need. So we'll just click on this. Right now, our default line weight is 0.25. I'll show you where that setting is in just a bit. But if we want to increase this to, let's say, 0.4, we do so here. And we'll do that as well for our earth layer. Let's change that to a little bit higher, 0.5, and we'll exit. If you type in LW for line weight and press enter, you'll be able to see the default setting here at 0.25 millimeters. Millimeters is a pretty typical setting for a line weight. Anyways, right now we're just printing the display or what we see in this window. So we'll just choose preview here, and you'll be able to see that the line weights are darker for the concrete versus the piping. So that's how you do that. And typically you'll want this to plot out in monochrome. So you can select that here, select yes to apply this style, and then choose preview. And that's going to give you a black and white drawing. Notice here how the top of our pump is cut off. And that's because it's cut off here in our display window. I just want to trim this piece here that I forgot. So real quick before I forget, let's go ahead and just trim this piece out in here. Now, next, let's talk about annotations. This drawing here needs to fit on an 8.5 by 11 paper. So if we click on our layout tab here, This is currently an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And the way we know that is down here in our layout tab. If we right click and we go to page setup manager, it's going to show us this here in the dialog here. As you can see, it's going outside the boundary of our sheet. So if we double click on the sheet itself and then come down here to our annotation scale list, select this and choose 1/4 of an inch, you'll be able to see that it scales in there better. So we know that our drawing probably needs to be plotted at 1/4 of an inch. So that's the way you determine what your scale is in your drawing. So if we go back into the model tab and type in MLS for multi-leader style, currently it's set to standard. If we create a new style based on the standard, we'll just call this annotative leader. And we'll choose this little option here to make it annotative. Now what we are presented with is another dialog where we can check some other settings. So the landing distance is this little piece here. The content is the actual text height, and this is the height that you would see if you were to put a ruler on your actual printed paper. We're going to change this to 3/32. Now, I just know from memory that 3/32 is a 0.09375, I believe. So we'll just type that in, 0.9375, and we'll put a point before it and then type in the 0. The landing gap, that's this gap in here. We could change that to the same value, 0.9375, and we'll put a point in front of it. And that does it for now. We might come back to this in just a bit. It's set to our current style here. We can see this little symbol here. This little triangular symbol is saying that it's annotative. So we'll close. So before we start our leaders, there's one last setting. We come down here into that same list, the annotation scale list, and we select that same plotted scale that we need for our paper. Now we type in the MLD command, which is multi-leader, and we can start labeling our drawing. So we'll start here. We'll come up. We need to turn off our ortho view, which is F8. We'll come up here and we will type in ARV, and then we'll left click into model space to get out of it. So we'll do one more of these and then I'll speed up the video to complete to get a few more inputted in here. So again, it's MLD. We'll label this fitting here and we'll call this a T, and then we can proceed to the next. If we wanted to lessen this distance a little bit here, again, we can go into the multi-leader styles, go into modify, and make this landing gap, let's say, the same, 0.9375, and a point there in front, and then enter and close. Now I'll do a few more of these in here. So I've got this pipe support label here. It's the last one I'm doing. And if you need to move this away from the pipe, for example, you can just pick it by the grip and then just stretch it over that way. Lastly, I wanted to show you how to dimension. So let's just dimension this box here. Dimensions have their own styles, just like multi-leaders. And the way you get into those styles is you type in D for dimension style, and you create a new style. Call this one annotative again. Annotative, annotative dimension. We'll just call it annotative. And then we'll, just like the other style, we'll click this box and then we'll click continue. And here it's very similar. We have the same values here. So for our text height, it's 0.9375, and we'll put a decimal point there. And now if we wanted an arrow, we could just leave it as is. If we wanted the arrow to be slightly smaller, we could adjust it here. Let's just go with this for now to keep it simple. We'll go into our text layer and we'll do the DLI command for dimension linear. And we'll dimension this one, and put in the location of our text. Now, if we click on this, we can change the arrow style here if needed. We can change it to the tick, for example, and then double click on this dimension here to override it. So we could type in, let's say 4 feet, and then click and choose symbol, and then come up here and choose diameter. And that's going to put a little diameter mark in here. Now, if we wanted to extend the line out a bit, that is in our style dialog. So if we go back to dim style and modify, you'll be able to see the tab here under lines. And this is where we can set that distance here. So we'll just put in that same value and choose OK. And while we're in here, we could decrease the size of those arrows. Let's just do the same. Choose OK and close. That's how the dimension setting works. Lastly, let's create a border. Notice that this line here is darkened. That means we're still in this model space here, looking down into our drawing. We need to double click out of it over here, and that locks us into what's called paper space. Now, if we type in the REC command and we define a rectangle here for our border, and then let's just stretch this down just a little ways. Now, if we click on this and we override our line weight here, remember our default line weight is 0.25. We can also do this on the fly using our properties palette. Let's change this to 0.7. And if you're wondering why you can't see the line weights right now, it's because we have a setting down here that we can toggle off and on to actually see the line weights. Let's take this out so it doesn't interfere with our text there. And we'll do a preview here. Now notice our line types are not showing up. There is a setting for this. So if we get out of this and toggle back into our model space, type in LT for line type, and come down to the center line type here, and then uncheck this use paper space units for scaling and choose OK, because that's what's throwing this off there. The scaling that it's using is for the paper space scaling and not model space. So let's refresh the drawing. We can see that we've got the scaling back the way it was. And before we do a preview again, let me just quickly check my layer settings. I think there was a couple layers that I did not see. Yeah, we have our hatch layer turned off here. So let's turn it on for plotting. Do a final plot preview here. So plot, preview, and there's our final result. So I hope this video has been helpful. Feel free to email or call me. The number here is 888-271-7121, and we'll see you in the next video.